Hey, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. I am just coming to you live right now because I just did an interview on Triple J, their show called The Hookup, and I was discussing my environmental sex life, which was very fun subject matter for a mermaid like myself. And I thought maybe you guys would be interested in hearing it from me as well. So I want to give you a little quick overview. The photo in is a carrot. This is a carrot. I was taking a bite. It's nothing but a carrot. Um, but I wanted to just share with you a few of the things that I think are important when discussing this topic. And that is, I do endorse condoms. Condoms are single use plastic. Most are not good for the environment. They don't biodegrade. They're packaged in mixed resource materials, plastic and metals, and those are never going to be recycled, and it's just trash. So even when the box is made from cardboard, a lot of them are uh, coated in a plastic exterior. So unfortunately, condoms are the worst of the worst in terms of their environmental impact. However, it's the best option we have for protecting against STDs and unwanted pregnancies. So totally endorse condoms is the one single-use plastic that I'm all about. Safe sex is great sex. Also, if you think about it, having a human is going to take a way bigger toll on the environment than using condoms. So that's how I put it into perspective. Condoms are great. Use condoms. There are better condoms. I personally don't have a favorite, but you can do a lot of Googling. There's, you want to support a local company depending on where you are. That means it just hasn't traveled as far to get to where you are. Transporting goods creates a lot of emissions. So we want to avoid that. Plastic comes from oil, it's packaging, and it never biodegrades. Plastic comes from oil. Oil is also burned as fuel to transport things around the world, and that causes carbon to be stuck in the atmosphere, which is contributing to global warming, which we're seeing the effects of every day. So oil wreaking havoc in different applications. So we just want to be conscious of all the things that we use. And plastic, fortunately, is one thing that we can control a little bit more than our carbon emissions sometimes. So what else do I do? I also, I used to have the IUD in terms of birth control. So protection, condoms are the best in terms of preventing STDs and pregnancy. If you want to prevent pregnancy, this isn't very sexy stuff, but we're getting there. If you want to protect against pregnancy, but you're comfortable with your partner or you don't want to use condoms, I used the IUD. That's the copper T. So that one has less hormones, and it inserts into the uterine lining, and that makes the uterine lining inhospitable to a fertilized egg. And that's what prevents you from getting pregnant. I liked this. I didn't feel crazy or weird, but after about 5 years, I did remove it. I just felt like I didn't want to have a foreign object in my body. This is such a personal choice. The copper IUD also had zero packaging, very little packaging. I think it was encased in a little bit of plastic to start. I wasn't able to keep that. They disposed of that. I usually keep all my plastic I use. Damn it, that one got away. Yeah, but it hurt to be inserted and it hurt to be extracted, but otherwise I didn't feel it at all. And it was great. So if you're looking for a birth control measure, I recommend that one, the copper T. Now I track my fertility, I track my menstrual cycle and my ovulation. So we're cycling through these different stages every month. We're very familiar with the bleeding. That one's hard to avoid. We know when we're gushing blood from our vagina. And there's all sorts of beautiful ways that we can manage that. I have plenty of YouTube videos on plastic-free period stuff. But on the other end of that cycle is ovulation, when we are super juicy and very fertile. And it's amazing to tune into our body as it changes between these two, within this whole cycle of changes and variations. In this like creative, juicy center of ours. I mean, we are so powerful. It's so amazing that that we have this capacity to create life, and tuning into the cycle and tuning into this ability and the changing of our body. And I mean, and aligning with the moon and seeing where you're at in your cycle in regards to the moon, and just feeling into the sensitivities and the emotions and the fluctuations in the body shapes and changes and retention of water and sexuality and sensuality, or just like, reserved and wanting to be by self and nesting. So it's really cool to tune into the natural functions of the body. And one of those is, tracking the menstrual cycle. That's easy, but you can find a lot of apps where you input data about your menstrual cycle and also your fertility. So once you know when your period is and you start to put that in over months and months and months, it starts to tell you, okay, well, this is also when you're ovulating, based on the data. But you can also start to feel it in your body. You're just more beautiful when you're ovulating. Like, it makes sense in terms of evolution. Like, you're fertile, you're trying to attract a mating, you're like sensual and glowy, and your facial features are accentuated. This is true. So cool. Anyway, so your app, a period app, can tell you that you're ovulating, or you can just feel it in your body. And that's when you want to be extra careful. Maybe you use condoms during that week or 5 days or whatever. Sperm can last up to 5 days. So you just want to, be aware. This also means that you want to be explicit with your partner or your partners that you are not on birth control, so that no one's caught off guard. I think a lot of assumptions get made when we're having fun with others, engaging in romantic and sensual play and intimate times. So I love conscious talks. I think it's really important to connect with your partner and make sure to set some agreements. And always, you want to have that talk, even though it seems awkward. It's way more awkward if you would have to have a talk after something were to happen. If someone were to get pregnant or someone were to get a disease. So way more awkward at the end. So have that conversation up front. I think it's so much better to have an awkward, ungraceful communications. Everyone's going to appreciate that more, as opposed to you just not saying something. If you feel that come up in you that you want to say something, do it. That's a healthy instinct. That's your intuition being like, say something. This is important. I need to say this. I want to communicate this, or I have to know this. I'm curious, or like, this is important to me. So this is your time. The agreements that I like to set with a sexual partner, I like to say, this is so that they can trust me, and so that I can trust myself, and that I felt in, and I'm like consciously choosing this intimate time. So I like to say, and this I learned at Lolea Eco Village on the Big Island of Hawaii, where I studied Tantra and conscious sensuality. So if you're interested in that, I've got lots of videos on that as well on this channel. So tune into those. So I like to say, I am responsible for my own self. So that means like nothing's happening to me. I'm not like, oh, this person did this to me. No, like my reaction to things is my own choosing. I'm grounded and I'm aware. So most things that are going on, I'm responsible for myself. You can trust my yeses and my nos. So if someone's like, hey, do you want to play with this carrot? I'm like, yes, you can trust that. Or no, you can trust that. I'm not just saying yes to go along with you, or I'm not just saying no, it's like, you can trust it. And then I know my boundaries. I've taken the time to feel in, like taken a pause away from the situation, felt in, been like, oh, I have a boundary there. Like, oh, no boundaries there. Like, I'm open. I've expressed it. If there's a boundary I need to express, like, I don't want to be touched on my face. I can express it, and then I can hold those boundaries too. Like, whoa, you touched my face. That's not okay. Are you aware you touched my face? Or like, because if you are, like, that's a boundary and I expressed it. So like, that's not cool. And then if they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, I got swept up in the moment, just wanted to touch your face. Then you can feel if it's okay, if you want to keep playing with someone, or if you're like, that's not cool, we're done. It makes it really easy, right? Because there's a line there, and if they cross it, they're out. Yeah. And then also just like setting a boundary or an agreement for open, honest, clear communication. Like, what's more important than that? So those are some agreements that I like to set. tracking the fertility allows one to have more open, playful experiences, but then you have to have more talks because there's less of an obvious protection, with the condom or birth control is kind of a more easy answer. So those are some conversation topics that might help facilitate these chats. This is going a little bit long, so I'll wrap it up. Lube, I use coconut oil. If you're using condoms, coconut oil reduces the effectiveness of the condoms. So you have to be aware of that. But I just think if I'm putting it on my body, I want it to be edible. So it's just safer, less toxins, And then for toys, I use crystals. So I'll put a link to where I get my crystal dildos and yoni eggs. I don't have my dildo with me. I'm in California at the moment, which was a mistake. I should have brought it, but I do have my yoni egg. So this is just it's wet because I was just sanitizing it. So you put that in boiling water. And it's a jade egg. It's very high quality. It's not porous, so it's not going to harbor bacteria. There's a bit of misinformation out there about that. And it's on a bit of floss, natural floss. And I just put this inside of me, and then I practice holding it with my pelvic floor. So it's a really nice way to reconnect to that area, which can become numb through social conditioning or sexual trauma or just lack of use, or, there's many things. There's tons of literature on this, which you can also look at the link below. But I just like it because I think I have a more sensitive experience then because of my jade egg practice. So these are crystals that you can use that enhance your experience. And I just prefer crystals and stones because a lot of these sex toys out there are made from toxic plastics. Cheap plastics that aren't medical grade silicone, which is probably the safest plastic you could use, but it's still plastic. So all of these things are still going to be leaching toxins. And I just feel like it's safest to just avoid those things altogether, especially around our super absorbent genitals. These are like our most sensitive areas of our body. So yeah, just keep the toxic plastics away. And then as far as like underwear and lingerie, I really like I'm wearing undies by Hara, the label. It's all bamboo. It's really soft and nice. And I think I have a discount code, Plastic Free Mermaid. It might be 15% off. So use that if you want to buy some. It's all super ethical. It's all hand dyed and from natural dyes in Melbourne. And they are, following all the fair trade regulations. They're really on top of it. Their website says it all. I'll link to that below as well. So these are my favorite, just like really comfy. They're like high-waisted. So I find I'd feel sexy in it, even though it's really comfy. And then for my lingerie, I wear this lacy brand is called Anecdote, and they're based out of Berlin, and she uses all repurposed lace. So this is all just offcuts from other designers that just never used it, and it would have ended up in landfill. So she finds this and then hand sews it in Germany. So this is my favorite. Very cute, and love supporting small local creative designers. It's really cool to support small legends that are, they are absorbing that extra cost of having to find that lace and find the bamboo and taking on all of these things to make these things sustainable. So I love supporting these business people. I think that's it. That's what I like to do to feel sexy. Those are kind of the things that I use instead of the traditional plastic, costumes, which I admittedly kind of miss, but also there's so much plastic packaging, so I could never, ever, ever justify it. Maybe I need to start my own like mermaid lingerie costume line. We'll see. Stay tuned. All right. I hope this is informative. Definitely subscribe if you find these things useful. I love sharing with you guys my plastic-free life. Feel free to comment any questions. Have a beautiful day.